Say hello to your new golf coach, okay? I'm ready for you. I want to take a moment and introduce myself to you, welcome you to the Supreme Golf Swing 90-minute class. I'm Steve Cornetta. I created the Supreme Golf Swing training program. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you folks made it out here too. Since 1996, every year, I conduct more golf clinics, classes, seminars, and schools for struggling recreational golfers than anybody in the world, really. Nobody does more with you than me. I did not come here today to coach Tiger Woods. Is that okay? Well, if I'm ever asked, I can do that job just fine. Coaching Tiger Woods golf and the golf swing might be the easiest job in America. Would you buy that one? No? All right, well, let me ask you this. Who has the far more difficult task? Tiger Woods golf coach or your golf coach? Guess who I get every week? I wouldn't have it any other way because you are the game of golf, not them. Without all of you and your participation in this sport, Phil Mickelson would be homeless and hungry if it were not for you. The game of golf is 50 million struggling recreational golfers, not a couple hundred people on television. Now, how many of us here today have already made the decision that this sport is our sport for the rest of our lives? All right, who's thinking about quitting? Let me see. Now let me ask you something about this sports skill that we've all chosen for the rest of our lives for our fun, enjoyment, frustration, and pain, right? Swinging a golf club with correct fundamentals. Is that why we came here today? Okay, you're in the right place. Now I got to ask you something. Swinging a golf club with correct fundamentals, are these correct fundamentals natural and instinctive? Or would they be unnatural and therefore must be learned? Which is it? Swinging a golf club correctly is a most unnatural physical skill, so therefore it must be learned, huh? But now we know that because of the nature of the golf course, learned is not good enough. This has to become overlearned, not underlearned. When physical skills become overlearned, what happens for you? Who knows? They will hold up under stress without thinking. And for today, every time I share with you in stress or under stress, where is that? Where do we play this game? Who knows? Where do we play golf? And don't say in our minds. We play golf on a golf course. Whoever said we play in a head? The stress of a golf course, the first tee, 20 people watching, and a lake, that's stress. Now, how many of us would like to improve? What must we practice, review, and rehearse for the rest of our lives that maybe we haven't been doing? The natural instinctive swing movements or the unnatural correct movements? Which is it? If we are not rehearsing these unnatural correct movements, we're not learning how to do it. Now, what would you bet millions of golfers in America practice? The unnatural correct or natural instinctive incorrect? Which is it? Natural instinctive swing movements. And from there, they are developed into habit patterns. Did everybody get that one? So therefore, millions of golfers swing golf clubs with natural instinctive swing habits. I have a name for them. You read it in the paper. It might be why you came. I call them arm swingers. Now, don't outthink this. Guess what an arm swinger does? Swings their arms. If we are an arm swinger, that's the upper body dominant golfer. First, this golf club is going to go to the top of the backswing a little quick, won't it? And at the top of the backswing, guess what's coming now? Here it comes. The arms are first and violent, and the legs are trailing. This is backwards. The arm swingers of America are going to shoot scores of 90 to 120 for life. Do we have any arm swingers here today? You're in good company. 50 million people do that. There are only about 40,000 arm and leg players in the United States and Canada. Arm and leg players are pretty good. They can do a lot better. An arm and leg player, when we play by the rules, they're the golfers that go out and shoot scores in the high 70s and low 80s. Now, how many of us would be happy with that one? Sure. An arm and leg player's swing habits are as follows. It's okay, but it isn't it. First, the golf club will arrive at the top of the backswing with a little slower and more relaxed rhythm in the upper body than the arm swinger. And at the top of the backswing coming down, an arm and leg player, the arms, hips, and thighs, will all go together in one piece. It's okay, but it isn't it. Then there's a select few that really know how to do this, even in stress. Now, these swing habits, for everybody in class today, when we learn what I'm about to show you, we will at least shoot scores in the mid to low 80s. Now, some of us are going to be much better than that, provided we can putt a little. Can everybody in this class today putt a little? I remember I had a guy one day, he said, well, I putt a lot. Uh-oh. Every time we swing this thing, this is our objective now moving forward. Because if we don't learn this, we're going to be trapped doing something else. Every time we swing this golf club, first, we are to get this golf club to the top of the backswing. With the entire upper body, everything up here must now be in a state of massive relaxation. I mean massive. Probably you've never done it. So that now maybe we got a chance at least. The big power muscles of our hips and thighs will swing the golf club in the downswing like we're supposed to do. Now these swing habits, everybody, will look like this here. We're going to do this one time very slowly so that you will see the movement that you will be learning if you care to. And what we're going to do right now is something a little different. See, things are going to start getting different, or they're not going to get different. We're going to view this from the hips to the feet. Just like Jack Nicklaus wrote in his book, remember years ago that golf is played below the waist and not above it? So we're going to get the golf club to the top of the backswing, the upper body relaxed and passive. And right now you're going to focus on this from the hips to the feet, and it will look about like so. We're going to do this nice and slowly so that you will see the motion. It will look about like so. Now, we just told you and showed you is that if we want to play well, do we? Then we're going to have to learn to do that. We must become what I call, and you call it whatever you want, I just call it a leg player. Is that okay? Does everybody remember a fella named Ben Hogan? Now, didn't he write a book too? And didn't Hogan write in his book years ago? Didn't he tell the whole world that's what you got to do? He wrote it in his book. He put it in his book and all his videos and everything. He said, look, you got to hit it with your hips and thighs. He put it in his book. You don't swing your arms. Everybody got the book. They read the book. They went out and tried it. And they kept trying and trying and trying. Then they returned to Ben Hogan and they asked him, hey, Ben, there's one more little detail we're going to need to know. We couldn't find it in your book. How do we do it with our hips and thighs? And his response to that was, because he was not a coach, his response to that was, well, I don't know that part. Why don't you just do it? Why don't we just do it? I showed you what you had to do. Wait a minute. If this movement must be learned, but it really has to become what now? Who remembers? Overlearned, because we have to execute it at the golf course without what? Thinking. Then the challenge for us is in the learning process. Are we okay with that? Now, if the challenge is in the learning process, then the solution has to come from the learning process. And what we're going to figure out in the first part of class today, before I start coaching you, is we're going to figure out why we haven't learned to do that yet. Because you know what the first step in this whole process has to be? Is if we haven't learned to do that yet, the first step has to be, let's stop trying to learn to do it the way we've been out trying to learn to do it, or we would have already learned to do it. Is that okay? Hogan wrote a great book. There was terrific stuff in his book. But do you realize by the time the student got around to reading the book, it was too late? Do you know everybody had formed their swing habits first, then they read the book later? Too late now. How many of us feel as though we've established our swing habits? Okay, I'll phrase the question a little differently. How many of us have been playing golf for at least 30 days? Do you know if we've been playing golf for a month or more, our habits are formed? Physical skills, habits form quickly, not slowly. So for all of us in our first 30 days of playing golf, do you know that was really when we got it right or we didn't? If you got it right, congratulations. You're one of the fortunate few. And if not, it's a lifetime of a nightmare, isn't it? Isn't it? And I know what happened to you, because the same thing happened to me. In those first 30 days, those critical days when we were forming our golf swing habits for life, in those early critical days, I bet we were struck with a tragedy and we were happy about it. One day with a bad swing, we hit a good one, huh? Do you know that was the worst thing that could have ever happened and we were happy? Why is that the worst thing that could have ever happened? Oh, because we thought we swung the club right because of what the golf ball just did, and then we get up and try our best to do it wrong again, huh? I will never let you believe that we can't hit a good shot with a bad swing. Of course we hit good shots with a bad swing every time we play golf. What we might never do is shoot low scores. How about them apples? Now, for a golfer that has a head full of bad habits, a head full of junk, can we still learn to do this and be a leg player like we're supposed to? What do you say? That's why I'm here. For a golfer that has a head full of bad habits, how many different ways or methods can we now learn to do this? And I'm going to give you a hint. We learn everything in life 2 ways and 2 ways only, and you already know what they are, and don't tell me right and wrong, because we can't learn wrong and get it right. We learn anything in life 2 ways and get it. We have different learning senses. We are now going to use them all. But there are 2 methods of all learning, and you're familiar with them. So you're going to have to pick one. One is called trial and error learning. Are you familiar with it? Sure, it's the worst form of learning on planet Earth, not for golf, anything we do it to. Trial and error learning, and the other would be, and the only way to get rid of trial and error learning is to apply a lesson plan. Or if we're from the military, we call that a training manual. Does everybody here know what a lesson plan is? Well, isn't that how we did everything our entire lives in school? Trial and error learning can work in golf. Has it worked yet? You can do this in trial and error. You don't need my help. You don't need my lesson plans. There are 4 simple steps to do this in trial and error. And you're going to play golf so great your head will spin. This is bulletproof, really. Who wants to know how to do this right now in trial and error? The 4 simple steps. Step 1, you don't need my help. Step 1, does anybody have a job? That's going. Step 2, do we have any family? They're going next. Step 2 is done. Now we can get on with it. No job, no family. Now we're going to go out and play golf 7 days a week for 6 months. And the 4th procedure, this is the key one that creates the improvement. If we do not do this 4th procedure, there's no improvement. It doesn't matter how hard we try and how often we play, our habits are formed. Every day we play golf, we're going to need to tee it up 7 days a week for 6 months with what kind of players? Who do we need to play golf with every day? Freddie Couples. And if we do that, we're going to come back in about 6 months and have witnessed a miracle. Wow, we're getting better. And I know you've done it. Haven't you played golf with a good player before? Haven't you done it? And what usually happens for us when we play golf with a good player, if we don't get intimidated by them, what happens for your game? We improve. When we play golf with good players, we get better. Therefore, what do you suppose happens to them playing with us? Now you know why we won't play with you. So 50 million failing golfers are all trapped playing golf with whom? Each other. Now that alone will kill you. But here's the real devastation. You ready for this? What do millions of failing golfers do with each other at the golf course? Who knows? 50 million failing golfers coach each other. We're giving each other tips. This is good. Oh, my friend got an F on the test. He's coming over to help me study tonight. Oh, this is good. Does everybody here understand what a lesson plan is? Okay. If you came to me and you said, hey, Steve, listen, I don't care about hitting a golf ball with the hips and thighs, upper body and massive relaxation and stress without thinking like all the good players. What I really want to learn to do, and I want to do it well, it's very important to me because when I spend my time and money on something, I want to do it well, right? Steve, I want to play a violin. You see this thing? Do you know what this is? This is the violin, gang. Would anybody here today try to learn to play this violin right here in trial and error with 3 other violinists that don't know how to do it? After 1 full year of trying to figure how to do this thing in trial and error, this violin right here, after 1 full year comes a revelation. This is what happened to me. I know what's wrong. This violin don't work. And millions of violinists run up to the music shop and buy another one that says Callaway on it or something. Because, oh, I know there's a problem. It isn't me. Steve, I want to learn a foreign language. Really? Let's go find Rosetta Stone. Now, this should make sense for everybody. Everybody went to different schools. Everybody had different teachers. Okay, but why did we learn every subject exactly the same way? Because it worked for everybody, that's why. The skills of mathematics. If we don't do the multiplication and division lessons first, can the student learn algebra? I would guess it's impossible, right? It doesn't matter how hard they try, it can't be done. In golf, we have fundamentals. One of them, for example, which is critical, are the fundamentals of the correct posture. Would you agree? If a student has never isolated and mastered the fundamentals of the correct posture, especially the position of the hips, this golfer can never learn a correct backswing fundamental for life. Does that at least make sense? Oh, sure, a backswing fundamental is going to be learned. It won't be right. How many of us are familiar with trial and error learning for golf? Golf Digest, Golf Illustrated, Golf Tips, videotapes, Golf Channel, 3-day golf school, lessons at the range. Has everybody played golf in the last couple of weeks? Okay. So let's pretend this is the common scenario. We just finished, 9 or 18 holes. We're all done. We're getting ready to head home from the golf course, but let's pretend we had a bad day. The drive home from a golf course after a bad round of golf, is something going on in here? It used to for me every week. Get home from I got to do better next week. This game is killing me. Get home from the golf course, open the mailbox. There it is, right on time. Golf Digest magazine, right on the front cover. How did they know my problem? Cure the slice again. Open the magazine, and it's more golf tips. Hey, I got to ask you, is there any such thing as violin tips? No, they don't have that madness. When we receive a golf tip, normally, where do we try it first? Hitting balls. Before we trust it at the golf course, taking the exam, where do we always go first? The driving range. We hand the guy, $8 or $10, a big bucket of balls, and start whacking balls with a new golf tip, hoping. Now, sometimes the new golf tip fails. It didn't work. But sometimes it does work, at least we think so. Have you ever done it? After about maybe, 10 practice balls with the new golf tip, we're warming up, and all of a sudden, with the new golf tip, here it comes, pow. Hit one dead straight, dead perfect. It feels great. It looks even better. It's 10 yards further than normal. This could be the one. Now we're zipping through the basket of balls. There's about 10 left. We're going to hit them in 5 minutes, and with the last 10 practice balls, we hit 10 good ones. It's 10 for 10. Do you realize what's going on in this thing right now? I got it. Now where do we run off to because I got it? Where do we go now? Now we run to the golf course. We run in there. We hand the guy, $40, $80, $100. It doesn't make a difference how much. Now we stick you on the first tee, and I got a question for you. What happens to that golf tip now? Never to be retrieved and experienced again. We just hit 75 balls in an hour. Is this new golf tip an overlearned subconscious skill that holds up under stress for 4 hours, overriding our old habits deeply embedded in the subconscious? Or do you suppose it's still in short-term memory? Where is it? Short-term memory. And for the game of golf, that's no good. Because when we stick you on the first tee, we're going to now give you the 4 demons for 4 hours. They sneak these in with the greens fees. Stress, tension, anxiety, failure. Does anybody's golf course have any of those? And as soon as we throw the 4 demons at anything in short-term memory, immediately our mind will revert to the old habits deeply embedded in the subconscious, and therefore nothing changed. How many of us have ever had a golf lesson? What are you doing here then? The greatest influence in my life had nothing to do with golf. I was this big. It was my mother and father, of course. And then the next greatest influence in my life showed up as a young adult. I spent 10 years of my young adult life. I was a United States Marine, active duty. I made it to the rank of sergeant fairly quickly. I did okay, and my job was I was with the infantry, so they had me running around with a rifle. I just returned from overseas deployment, and there was a message waiting for me from the commanding general at the 1st Marine Division out at Camp Pendleton in San Diego. And the message read, "Hey, Sergeant Cornetta, we understand you know your job quite well." I did. All the other Marines did too. And they said, "You know what you're going to do now?" And I thought, oh no, where is he sending me this time? "Oh no, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to be a school teacher, son, an instructor." Me? A school teacher? I don't know anything about being a school teacher. They said, "Don't worry. We're going to take you like a piece of clay, and we're going to mold you into one." Got it? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to formulate a lesson plan to a curriculum. You see this thing right here? This is a curriculum. Then we're going to show you how to conduct a period of instruction. Then we're going to send you the students, and they better learn it, and you're helping them. And I got to thinking, I want this job. I knew if I got that job, every day around 4 o'clock, I'm done. And after 1 week of getting off every day around 4 o'clock, I figured something out. I got nothing to do with all my free time. Guess what's coming? And for the next 3 long years, I hit golf balls 4 days a week with poor swing habits. I didn't know it because I hit a good one occasionally, okay? I played golf twice every week. And in my late 20s, when I took up this game, I was fairly athletic. And after 3 years of trying my best, guess what I, your instructor, could not do? Take a guess. I could not break the score of 100 unless I cheated. Look, I'll confess, I used to play alone and cheat. Because when you shoot 110, what difference does it make? I'll throw the ball on the green. Just go this way and not that way if no one's looking. I got to ask you right now, our age and our gender, that's 2 of them, right? But this third one's the big one. Athletic ability, do they mean much in golf? What do you say? Well, I was 29 years old and athletic. I could not break the score of 100. And one afternoon, I played golf with a gentleman, he was 45 years older than me. I was 29. Can you add it up? He's far less athletic. And now the icing on the cake. When he came out of the pro shop of the 1st Marine Division golf course, strutting up to the first tee to join our group to get ready to play, here he comes. I got my buddies on the first tee. I said, "Fellas, here's our 4th man. He'll be joining us today. It appears as though he will slow us down, so let's be patient with him." Does anybody know what humility is? That man got on the first tee. We introduced ourselves, and then his behavior starts to be getting a little unusual. He has a 3-wood. We have drivers. And then he turns around and starts hobbling his way to the tee box. Do you know the one? I responded, "Where are you going?" He said, "I play way back here." He took one look at me and said, "You better stay up here." He played from the black tees. He shoots the score of 75. It was 1 stroke above his age. I was playing the yellow tees. They were next to the red one. I'd have done red if they'd let me. What difference would it make? Make me hit the ball better? Despite that man's age and all of his physical ailments, and he had them, every time he got his golf club to the top of his backswing, which for him, he could only get the club about halfway back, that's okay, because when he does, his entire upper body is in massive relaxation, and without thinking, Every single time, his hips and thighs are going first in the downswing, just like so, and he's hitting the ball a mile dead straight with half a swing. And that was the day I took golf lessons, and no fooling around for Steve. I went right to the guru in San Diego. She coached the university college golf team at the time. She wrote the golf tip to the local golf magazine. She's PGA everything with all the credentials and badges. And I went to her, I said, Laura, please, Laura, I'm begging you. You got to help me. I just got beat by 35 strokes by a handicapped Marine. She said, relax, Steve. I'll be glad to help you. And I'm going to give you an active duty discount. It'll only cost $200. That's almost a half a month's pay. You got to fix me now. $200. I hit a golf ball, and Laura Day stood behind me, and the first thing she did, she said, we got to fix your grip. Oh, okay. And then I hit another one. She said, now be careful, your right elbow in the backswing. It's flying away from you. Is that the trick? It's because my elbow's wrong, huh? And then I hit another one. She said, now, Steve, you got to be careful in your backswing so your head's coming up. And then I hit another one. She said, now, in your backswing, your right hip is sliding lateral. Don't do that. Your right hip, you got to hold and turn. I didn't know that. So I got the hip, the grip, the elbow, and the head. And then I hit another one. She said, now I want you to get your left arm straight in the backswing. And then I hit another one. She said, no, you chunked it because you're diving at the ball in a downswing. And then I hit another one. She said, now your downswing's a big mess. First, we need to clear the left hip more. And at this same moment, don't uncock the angles too early, and you better watch your shoulder didn't come out. And then I hit another one. You rolled the club face, you sliced it. I hit another one. She said, your backswing's too quick. And then I hit another one. She said, you're lined up crooked. And then I hit another one. And Laura stood behind me. She said, oh, Steve, look at your shoulders. Don't you know your shoulders are crooked? I said, no, I didn't, but I do now. I could barely even move. And she came up behind me and said, you know something? I think you're in stress. You're kidding. And when I didn't learn anything, and I didn't learn anything, I went back to her. I said, Laura, I know you showed me a lot of stuff. I don't believe I've learned any of it. She responded, I know this. You're hopeless. Now quickly, I'm going to go through my mentors, and then I'm going to start coaching you, okay? The Marine Corps made me into an instructor, teacher of anything. But I needed these three people to put it together for the curriculum of the golf swing. The first was Ogilvy. Ogilvy is the greatest sports psychologist the world has ever known. Do you know him? You probably don't know him. He's the granddaddy of sports psychology. There was no such thing as sports psychology until Ogilvy. Do you know he's the first fellow to figure out that this thing right here has something to do with sports? For a human being that has a head full of bad habits, what is the formula to change a habit pattern permanently? We must learn one fundamental or lesson, one, not two. Then we begin the rehearsal of this one fundamental or lesson. And our rehearsal must be done in relaxation, slow motion, and isolation out of stress, tension, anxiety, failure, preventing the old habits from returning. We will rehearse the fundamental in relaxed slow motion over and over and over until it becomes overlearned, and it will, and then we're going to add the next one. 1 and 2 together, over and over, add the third. So the formula is to learn, review, and rehearse, then add in sequence. Is everybody clear on this? Now, does anybody today know how many days of rehearsal it requires to change a habit pattern? Who knows? Depending on what book you read, 21 to 30 days. Not everybody's exactly the same. Some can learn a little quicker than others. About a month. Let me ask you something about habits, everybody, seeing it's what we're dealing with, right? Is it possible, do we pick up habits from one another? Do people sometimes copy each other? What do you think? Sure. What I'm about to share with you is going to take, 3 or 4 strokes off your game pretty quick. Who wants this one? Now, who here is pretty certain that you already know that you're an arm swinger, upper body dominant golfer? Okay, probably almost everybody, right? So let's pretend for a moment we're playing with a fella named Tom. Tom's an arm swinger. And Tom's on the first tee. And Tom's getting ready to hit the ball. What are the rest of us doing when he's playing? We're watching Tom. Look, if we pick up habits from each other, what do you need to do when Tom is playing? Turn around fast. And then we're going to begin rehearsal for the only shot in the world that counts. Whose is it? Our own. Why rehearsal? I don't know, maybe we should study a script before we go to the stage. Does everybody watch golf on television? You've seen this, maybe we should do it too. One of them is putting the ball. Don't we usually see the other one off to the side doing this a half a dozen times? Because we have to make that putt in here first before we execute. There's one reason we watch Tom hit the ball, and you know what it is. What do we got to help him do right after he hits it? Find Tom's ball. So from now on, when your friends invite you into their nightmare, are you going? When they say things like, did you see where my ball went? What will you now tell them? No. Or you get your friends on the first tee and you blame me. Just blame me. Tell your friends, hey, look, before we tee it up today, I got to talk to you. I went to Steve's golf class the other day, and he let me know that if I am ever to improve, and I want to improve, one of my first duties, 4 hours on this golf course, I must now eliminate all the harmful and damaging images. Your friend's going to say, well, what's that supposed to mean? Well, that means I can't watch you play golf ever again. He said, you're a harmful and damaging image to me. Now, don't hurt your friends' feelings. Tell your friends, look, you want to improve, don't you? Then you better stop watching me until I'm doing it right. Now, if we're lucky enough to be playing golf tomorrow with Jack Nicklaus and Nancy Lopez, what should we do if we get to play golf with them? Stare at them. Lazarov is a school teacher. Eastern Europe, the book is Super Learning. His students memorized foreign languages faster than anybody in the world. I found out something from a school teacher in Eastern Europe that allows people to learn things quicker and faster, and it's the learning environment must be created. And then we needed the coach. This man is probably the greatest coach who ever lived in all of sports. It's likely you've never heard of him. If we were in the Bay Area, California, well, everybody there knows him because one of the football stadiums has his name on it. He died in 1986. He got his initiation into coaching very similar to me, not in sports. He trained World War II fighter pilots, you see. He went on to become the head track and field coach at San Jose State College and the United States Olympic track and field coach. His name is Bud Winter. I bet you've never heard of Bud. Bud Winter, San Jose State College, dominated our nation for years in track and field. He takes 3 consecutive Olympic teams, United States Olympic teams, which dominate the world. In a 12-year period, Bud Winter did the unthinkable. He coached 37 individual world's records. I'm going to ask you, is that any good? No one's ever got a sniff of that one. Bud Winter's athletes all did this. We will too. They would all perform in total fluid motion in stress. Can I ask you something about golf? Do we need to chip, pitch, putt, and drive the ball in total fluid motion in stress? Is that right? Does anybody in this class today have a practice swing that feels better than the real one? How come when we're swinging golf clubs at Dandelions, we're terrific? You ever notice that? Smooth as silk with the Dandelions. Now there's no more Dandelions. Now what we give you instead? Live ammo. The ball's got you. The distance we have to hit it's got you. Do you know when we put 350 yards of grass in front of you can make you swing too hard? Then let's add lakes, trees, out of bounds, scorecards, betting money, and all that other stuff. But here's the big one. When the student experiences failure, you know the moment we step on a golf course, we just signed up for a 4-hour exam that's made of little quizzes. When the student experiences failure, that would be any bad shot. If the student doesn't first identify, feel, and know what made us hit the last bad shot, what haven't we done for ourselves by the time we get to the next quiz? We haven't corrected. A track and field coach took up the game of golf. Thank goodness. Years ago, when Bud Winter, the Olympic track coach, hit a golf ball, a golf professional named Robert was giving him a golf lesson. Now, years ago, I spent a little time with Robert and then all my own work. When the track coach hit the ball, Robert, the golf professional, stood behind him, fixed the grip, left arm, elbow, heads moving, hips are swaying, all the stuff. And the United States Olympic track coach turned to a golf professional and said, "Bob, stop. This golf lesson that you are giving to me in this environment while I'm hitting the ball during execution is unlearnable, a waste of time, an act of insanity." Is anybody familiar with insanity? Robert, the golf pro, responded, "Well, I'm trying to help you. Why don't you do what I'm showing you?" And the track coach responded, "Robert, we know you're trying to help. Hasn't anybody let you know that you don't know what you're doing?" Robert, the golf pro, said, "What do you mean I don't know what I'm doing? I shot 68 this morning and played 6 events on the golf tour last year. What do you mean I don't know what I'm doing?" And the track coach responded, "Robert, we know you shot 68. Right now, aren't you supposed to be helping me? First, what are all the fundamentals that we must be learning and maintaining? And second, this is the tricky part, what is the sequence of learning these fundamentals that make it possible for arm swingers to become what? Leg player. So in golf, of all the fundamentals that we must learn, which one do we have to learn first? What do you say? You got balance, rhythm, tempo, timing, grip, alignment, posture, the head still, spine angle, eye on the ball, left arm straight, right elbow close, set the angle, hold in, keep club face square, shoulder turn to the back, swing leg drills to the back, swing the bottom of the swing arc, distance the ball, 14 club. Do you know we haven't begun the downswing yet? And we got to do all of that correctly under stress in a split second without what? Thinking? Is your sport at least 30% mental? Who would agree with that? All right, who thinks it might be about 50, maybe 80? Keep going. It's 100% mental. The brain swings the club. Do you know where your golf swing is right now? It's in here. If I were to remove your brain, can you hit a golf ball? A fellow once in one of my classes said, "I'd be better without mine. It's killing me. Whatever's in there won't stop repeating what it keeps repeating, and I can't make it stop, Steve." We will swing at a golf ball like all physical skills, analytical left brain thinking, or the right brain subconscious with a quiet mind. Which one of those is fluid motion? Right brain subconscious. One analytical thought under stress of a golf course over the ball, and fluid motion is out. My point to you is, we're not to be thinking. And you know what? It's not easy to not think. Before we do the first lesson here in just a moment, you're going to have to hang on very tight to this principle if you're serious about learning this. Are you? Then you're going to need to hang on tight to this. You might want to write it down on a little piece of paper if you have one handy. These are the most important 3 words in golf training. They should have been given to us the very day we took up this game. Maybe it would have helped. So let's at least get it done now. These 3 words are not "you the man" or "in the hole." For us, the 3 words are these: every swing counts. Do you know what that means? It doesn't matter if we practice. It matters what we practice. It matters what we learn, not if we learn. Millions of golfers try their best to improve. I know that. But this is when we know it's a waste of time and money, is when we're not getting better every single week. How about that one? Where do millions of golfers practice? Where do they go hit balls? Driving ranges. Guess where I don't want you going right now? Take a guess. Do you know that a driving range and a golf course are two different sports? Would you buy that one? Do you know what a driving range is? 75 mulligans on a flat surface. How about that one? Look, here's what a driving range never did for me. It never helped me correct my mistakes. It perpetuated them and made them worse. How about that one? If I were to go to a driving range and hit 80 golf balls in an hour, and in 1 hour 80 times, arms first, legs trail, what did the subconscious mind record 80 times? The wrong thing. And do you know what happens during that process of 75 golf balls when we hit 40 good ones? 40 times we think we swing right, and it keeps the errors coming. You with me? Learning will be done in the greatest learning environment in the world. Do you know where that is? Our own home. Every lesson we ever received in school, do you got any idea where we learned it? I'll give you a hint. We didn't learn it in school. That's where they did the teaching. Where was it learned? In a bedroom or at a kitchen table. The home is the most comfortable environment in our own world, okay? The student must be in a relaxed and calm environment. Do you learn well when we're uptight and nervous? Nothing sticks. Practice will be done now in slow motion, like we're doing Tai Chi or yoga poses. Here's the proof of slow motion training. Have you ever watched a little kid learn the skills of penmanship? How slowly they draw the letters to do them correctly? And then later, when this handwriting picks up speed, we can read it, right? One letter at a time. I was very curious why 300 years ago people had such beautiful handwriting. I found out how they learned that. You know they did it without paper? They didn't have spiral notebooks back then where they could, right? We're going to do the same thing with this. Relaxation, slow motion, this one will really get you. Isolation, the student learns best alone. We're at a library. That's not a bad place to learn either, but home is better. We're at a library and we're studying for a quiz. We get to the library and there's a table over here with about 4 people and they're talking quietly. And then there's a table in the back of the library where nobody is. Where do you go study? Don't we go to the back table? Relaxation, slow motion, and isolation. Final piece out of stress, tension, anxiety, failure. So the old habits don't come back, and this is the final piece of the learning puzzle. A practice or training session when changing habit patterns. Should a practice session be 1 hour, 2 hours, up to 15 minutes, or all day? Which one of those is the magic? I hope you said 15 minutes or less. In a 15-minute or less training session, that's going to guarantee the student ends their training performing at our what? At our peak, because every swing counts. So no more what everybody else is doing. If millions of golfers are failing, should we copy them? Then let's not practice 1 or 2 days a week for 2 hours at a range hitting balls like everybody else is doing. How many days a week do my students practice correct fundamentals at home? How many days a week? There's no day off. Aren't you glad you came? At the top of our backswing, one of 2 things will happen. Let's do the first major lesson for today. At the top of our backswing, we will either swing the arms and hands with the legs trailing, or in massive relaxation, massive. The upper body, arms and hands can free fall with the lower body leading. Which one do we want? We want to free fall a golf club in stress. It looks easy. Is it easy? Nothing is easy until it is learned. You ever watch a kid learn to tie their shoes? That's not easy. I found this little image years ago. It's a little picture of Tiger. This is the year he won the US Open by 15 strokes. Remember that one? This was back when he wasn't just winning. This was back when he ran away with it, you see. He's halfway down in his downswing, and he's describing for us what his arms felt like halfway down in his downswing, so that maybe we can too. And he says, my arms feel like they're falling. I'm loading up for a big hit. My students do this. This was with his old swing. Remember the one that didn't work? The one the golf experts changed? He just won the Open by 15 strokes. You might not want to change it. My students do this exercise once or twice before we pick up the club to practice. If we do not do this exercise first, before the practice, our practice will be a waste. If we do not practice free falling, do you know what we're going to practice? Something else. There's only one little detail that nobody on planet Earth can avoid. It's not possible. It's not possible to avoid learning something even if it's wrong. You with me? Before we pick up a golf club to practice, we are going to remove all tension from the upper back, neck, and shoulders. You know the crud we carry here on a golf course? And then consequently, the damage that does to grip pressure and rhythm, it's awful. Before we pick up a golf club to practice, we are going to first push our shoulders to the rear, where they used to be. With our shoulders pushed to the rear. Now hang tight, you're going to join me in a minute. I'll let you know when. Our shoulders are pushed back. We're going to now slowly raise the arms and hands until our hands reach about the level of our ears. When our hands reach ear level, about like so, I'm going to shout at you from the top, ready, fall. And from the top, I want you to then let your arms free fall in massive what? Relaxation to mimic the downswing. Let's do the exercise first together. Stand tall. We're going to push the shoulders back. Now slowly, let's go to the top. Let's go. Well, so much for slowly. I know you went too fast. Ready, fall. I tricked you. Remember earlier I let you know that it's not a good idea to watch your friends play golf, right? Monkey see, monkey do, right? Remember that? I was telling you verbally, I know you heard me. I was telling you raise your arms slow. Did you hear it? But you didn't do it. Because on purpose you were watching me and I raised mine kind of quick. Guess what you did? Monkey see, monkey do. Let's go again. Shoulders back. Slowly, let's go to the top. Soften your wrists and fingers. Ready, fall. How many golf balls have we ever hit where that's how our arms felt in the downswing? Do you know why we don't feel that? Because here in this class today, we're violent, that's why. Is anybody here today familiar with a place called Camelback? You ever heard of that? Scottsdale, Arizona. It's a big golf place. It was January 1997, my first day ever with a group. I was terrified. About 150 people showed up, scared to death. A fella came into class. I didn't recognize him. And he came in, sat right in the front row, and we're doing this little exercise. And out of about 150 people, I decided I'm going to go pick on the guy I don't recognize. And I asked him, okay, mister, how many golf balls have you hit in your life where your arms felt nice and easy like that in the downswing? And guess what came out of his mouth? All of them. All of them? He said, well, just about all of them, Steve. And then I looked at the man closer. I went, oh no, what are you doing here? He said, well, I'll tell you later why I came, but I'm glad I did. You're doing fine. I asked him, would you help me? He said, I'd be glad to help you, Steve. What would you like me to do for you? And I said, well, if you don't mind, would you kindly share with everybody here today what kind of scores you shoot, who could relate this relaxed feeling in the upper body to the downswing? And he said, well, everybody, right now my handicap, I'm not quite what I used to be. I'm getting a little older these days. I now play to a handicap of +3. Does anybody know what a +3 handicap shoots? Now don't say 75, because that would be a -3 handicap. So if your handicap's 20, you're not really a -20 on the scorecard. -20 is your handicap. +20 is what's on, because you have to get 20 strokes. That fella that year, a +3 handicap, they shoot scores in the high 60s from time to time. That fellow that year did 20 events on the senior golf tour. I never give his name out, because if I did, what would I have to do every week? Yeah, I'd have to pay him. When the class let out that day, he and I had a chance to sit down and chat for a little while. It was very nice for me. It was an honor. And he patted me on my head, and he said, "Steve Cornetta, I have never seen or heard of you in my life, but whatever you do, you never stop doing this. You are going to help a lot of people." Then he confessed something to me. He said, "Steve, I want to let you in on a little secret. We in the PGA, we know how to play the game. We've never known how to help them." I said, "I'm going to try." He looked at me and said, "Do you realize everything you shared with these people, you were spot on? I didn't find a flaw. And this exercise right here, that one's worth $10,000 for me." I looked at him, I said, No, this doesn't mean anything to you because you're doing it already. Wait a minute. This fellow was playing the senior golf tour, okay? Playing the senior deal. He's about to hand me a gem. All my students are retired, most of them. Is it possible that when we age, we lose athleticism in the legs? Does anybody run as fast or jump as high or hit a golf ball as far as we used to? No. Aging does not have to ruin a golf game, but it might. As our hips and thighs slow down, we give up some distance. Okay, but here's my bet. As we start to lose a little distance in the aging process, I'll bet these upper body right side muscles get more active as we get older. Fair enough? Now, there's a couple of things very, very tricky about your sport, okay? Can everybody see these muscles right here? From the shoulders, these are the small, fast muscles. Arms, hands, these are the small, fast muscles. Now, what do you suppose small, fast muscles need to do in a tricky game like golf? They got to slow down, relax, and take it easy. And at the same moment that the small, fast muscles have to relax and take it easy, what do you suppose the big, slow power muscles of the hips and thighs, what is that supposed to do? Move quickly. So what that's going to do, everybody, okay, all we have to do now without thinking is make the fast muscles go slow and the slow muscles go fast. Is everybody clear on that? You got it? Okay, good. Class is over. You said you got it. Now wait a minute. We're going to study some pictures here today as we do things. Now, why would I have you look at a picture when learning? Sure, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's the proof, okay? Now, before we look at this picture, I want to put to bed the idea of theory. Everybody knows what a theory is, right? A theory would mean we're still guessing. We don't do theory here, okay? I have been asked all across this country, PhDs in education have asked me this question: Steve, how did you develop your marvelous learning theories? Theories. We don't do theory here. Do you think the United States Marine Corps operates on learning theory? No, we have to have some absolutes like, what to learn and how to learn it. How about that one? Okay? 4 + 4 = 8. That's no theory. What is it? And don't say it's a fact. Because a fellow one time said to me, it's a snowman. I had 3 of them yesterday. This game is killing me. This image is a fact. Right now, this is a marvelous image of the fast muscles slow and the slow muscles fast, okay? It's a little picture of Tiger when he was 25 years old, winning all the big tournaments all the time. So right now, you're focused on the hips and thighs, okay? Now, when we study this picture, we notice that the hips are fully turned. Now I got to ask you, where's the ball? He hasn't hit it yet. That's a leg player. What must we become? A leg player to the best we could do it. When we study this image and not just look at a picture, you notice that you see 2 hips, correct? Fully turned. That's important, but here's what's more important. Notice that when we see the 2 hips, we do not see two shoulders. You with me? Only one shoulder is visible. If we saw two shoulders in this picture right now, he'd be probably sitting in here with the rest of us. All right. Now, don't be intimidated by this picture, by the way. Just because it's Tiger when he was 25 years old, winning all the big tournaments all the time. Remember those days, you know, before he got ruined and everything? You remember those days. Don't be intimidated by that picture. I used to have a picture of Byron Nelson. Remember Byron Nelson? And somebody took it from my class and I couldn't replace it. But I used to have a picture of Byron and I'd put it next to Tiger. At the time, the picture of Byron Nelson was 75 years old. And I'd take the picture of Byron Nelson at 75, put it next to Tiger when he's 25, and guess what you saw? Same thing. The only difference is if we're 75, our hips don't move as quickly as we did when we were 25. So here's what's going to happen. He's going to hit the ball 325 yards off the tee. And poor Byron Nelson, at the age of 75, now he was struggling because his ball was 75 yards behind him. He could only hit it 250, poor fella, right down the middle. This is a marvelous image of the fast muscles slow and the slow muscles fast. Now, what are we doing in this exercise? What are we doing in here in this? Slowing down the fast muscles first before we pick up the club to practice. If we're on the ball, we just identified priorities in training. Okay, it's a priority to get the lower body moving quicker. Yes, that is a priority. However, the higher priority is to slow the upper. Is everybody clear on that? Especially as we age. Now, somewhere about 1930, so that was what, 90 years, long time ago, you've heard of him, Bobby Jones. He let the whole world know way back, why aren't we doing it? He let the world know every time we grip the club and swing the club, we must hold the club and swing the club as if we're holding a what? A little baby bird. A baby bird. That's nice. Did he tell us to kill the bird, or should we let it live? What would happen if millions of golfers had a baby bird in their hand and the visual image of 300 yards of grass in front of them? What do you think would happen to the baby bird? By the time that little bird is belt high in the backswing, it's over. Never mind the violence of the downswing. Hold the club soft like the baby bird. You know what they never shared with me when I struggled? Was how to do it. See, if the student is trying to learn something in life, let's go through the list. A foreign language, mathematics, shoot a rifle, play hopscotch, play the piano, or swing a golf club. If the student is not receiving how to and why, I'd have to say good luck to you. Coming here today, some of you are probably wondering, why did this guy have me bring my 7-iron to this class? Where will I hit balls? Wait, do I need to watch you whacking golf balls right now? No, of course not. You know how many people, you know why I don't need to watch you hit golf balls? I already know what you're doing. I started videoing golfers in the late 1990s. To this point in time, I have videoed more than 70,000 recreational golfers. So if I'm a school teacher, I just went and graded 70,000 quizzes. You know what I know? You're all the same. Different bodies from the neck down with the same thing in here. Like we all speak the same language, right? Yeah, I had you bring a golf club to class today because we're going to do this exercise a couple of times. And then I want you to get your club and grip it. And for the first time, you're going to know and feel what it is really like, tension-free, to hold the baby bird and let it live. Okay, let's do the exercise together, please. Standing tall. Shoulders pushed to the rear. Slowly, let's go to the top. We are rapidly removing. Ready, fall. the tension from the upper back, neck, and shoulders, the crud we carry here on that golf course, and consequently the damage that does. I got to ask you right now, could you do this little exercise at your golf course if you care to? What do you say? What? Are you going to stand on the first tee doing this? You're going to get locked up. We do this at home, okay? Hey, you know what, everybody? Just a thought. You might want to do this little exercise for your health. Do you know what happens as we age? Our shoulders start to come up and forward. And do you know what that does to the muscles behind the back of the neck, the upper back and shoulders? They start to get very tight. And when they get tight, our circulation slows down, coming, Shoulders push to the rear. Slowly, let's take it to the top. Shoulders back where they used to be. Ready, fall. Now, go ahead and get your golf club and grip it, and notice the soft feeling. Keep feeling the soft feeling. The bird lives. If we do not feel that nice soft feeling every time we chip, pitch, putt, or drive the ball, if we don't feel that, we're going to feel something else. We feel something else, we learn something else. Everybody clear on that? How long do we practice? Who remembers? 15 minutes or less. You don't have to do 15 minutes. If you do 5 minutes, you're good. What's my point? Short sessions and a lot of them, not the other way. So we're home in practice and we're doing our homework, right? And everything's going along nice, and a few minutes go by, and then we make the mistake. We start to feel these upper body right side muscles start to jump in there. Should we keep swinging the club or should we stop? Stop, put the club down, do the exercise, and then proceed. Otherwise, we're damaging ourselves. It's better for us to do nothing than damage. Got it? Now, Sam Snead coined it this way. He said, swing the club like you hold an egg and don't crack the shell. And Jack Nicklaus's book, at the top of the backswing, it feels like you could pull the club right out of my hands. Okay? Now, I don't know when we played golf last, but I'll bet you were on the back nine, coming down the stretch, 16th hole, the pressure is mounting. There's a $1 bet riding. The enemy's ball is on the green. In front of us is a lake. Is that how the club felt? Oh, bloop. Now, is everybody familiar with Augusta, Georgia? You know Augusta, Georgia. They play the big tournament there every year. A while back, I was usually they play in April, right? Years ago, I was in Augusta doing some golf schools up there. It was the month of May. The prior summer, I was in New England. I used to be able to show you this, but I was in New England. There's a place in New England, in Connecticut, Trumbull, Connecticut. That was the area that Golf Digest used to be. And I was doing my golf classes up there, and the people at Golf Digest saw my little newspaper clipping in the Connecticut Post, and they sent their spies in here. Go see who this guy is. We don't know who he is. He is not one of us. No, I'm not one of them. And then 10 months later, in Augusta, Georgia, there's a Golf Digest magazine in the lobby of the Sheraton Hotel, and I opened it up, and you know what was looking back at me? They had a computer picture, like it wasn't a photograph, of Tom Watson doing this exercise, telling everybody that'll help you get the tension out. Well, I called them. I said, what are you doing? And they said, oh, we came to your golf thing when you were up here in Connecticut last summer. I said, I know. I remember you guys coming in. But if you're going to take my stuff and publish it in your magazine, how about a phone call? I don't mind if you use it. You can use it. It might help some people who need help. This game needs help. Coming here today, how many of us were at least a little skeptical? Come on, I know. You might not want me helping you after today. I get it. I have to earn your trust. Well, I might not want you for a student. How's that? Oh, I'll take you. I'm not fussy like some of them. You know, there's a certain type of golfer I would care less about coaching the golf swing to. If I was ever asked, I certainly know how to do it. It's no achievement. It would be a golfer like Phil Mickelson. Do you know why? He already knows how to do it. I'm not a mathematics teacher, but if I were a mathematics teacher, guess who I would not want for a student? Albert Einstein. He already knows how. The type of golfer I prefer to have for a student, and maybe you're here today, I prefer to have the downtrodden. I want the last gasper. Because do you know what this place represents to the game of golf? This is the Salvation Army, isn't it? This is where golfers crawl out of brand new Mercedes-Benz when there's nowhere left to go. Could everybody relate to the beginning of this class about the madness of habits being formed? Trial and error learning and stress? Did everybody just feel a nice softness in the grip pressure? If you're not sure about this now, you should be, but if you're not, I'll put it behind us. I'm your last hope. That guy says he's my last hope. He didn't flinch. Well, someone has to know how to help you. You know, there are people who know the trick on how to train a dog. They make the dog's chewing up the furniture. They make it stop. Well, there might be somebody that knows a few tricks on how to train people. First, I will never give you a golf lesson, ever, while you're hitting the golf ball. Do you know why I won't do that to you? Because it's wrong to do that to you. Now look, 20,000 well-intentioned golf professionals are giving people lessons while they hit the ball. I know, they did it to me too. I get it. I'm a United States Marine. We do something very different here. We do not teach things to people during execution. You know why? It's too late. Would anybody here try to learn to play a piano during the concert? It's too late. He's probably a nice gentleman. I don't know him. They'll do their thing. I do my thing. They coach Phil Mickelson. I get you. I wouldn't have it any other way. His name is Hank Haney. You've heard of Hank. For a while, he was coined as the #1 golf teacher in the world, remember? Because he was teaching Tiger for a couple of years. And then he was showing Rembrandt how to paint a picture. And then they gave Hank Haney one of us. And for an entire year, he gave one-on-one golf lessons on a golf course while hitting balls during execution to a basketball player named Charles Barkley, remember? And Barkley still stinks, and Woods got worse. And when he was teaching Charles Barkley after an entire year, which one of the two was confused? Hank Haney. The teacher couldn't understand what's wrong with the student. Nothing is wrong with the student. The student is trying their best. What's wrong with the teacher? How do we not understand that the student can never execute what's in the mind of the teacher? The student can only execute what's in the mind of the student. You with me? I guess we didn't know how to get the information into the subconscious. Okay? Can everybody see this angle created by the golf club in the arm? Can everybody see that angle? That's one of the angles. Then there's an angle in the right wrist which is cocked back. You ever watch a waiter carry a tray? Palm up, correct? These two angles, this one and this one, are set at the top of the backswing. Now you're doing that a little bit. When our hips and thighs go first in the downswing, okay? Or let me ask you this. If our hips and thighs go first in the downswing, because in our downswing, are we supposed to uncock the angles like so, or are we supposed to hold the angles? Which one? Well, we got to hold the angles. Now I got to ask you, if our arms go first before the hips and thighs, can we hold the angles? Take a guess. It's impossible. I have videoed more than 70,000 of us, and I used to have this big mistake myself. Do you know when the upper body fast muscles take over and go first? Guess what's going to get in the way? The slow ones. And the moment the right arm, if we're right-handed, hit this right side and get stopped and blocked, do you know this is where the angles break back here? Huh? Does anybody in this room today struggle with consistency? like a bad dream, and it kept getting worse, okay? For 3 years. If you gave me my swim trunks after 3 years, a competitive swimmer, all 4 strokes, my ice hockey stick and the skates after 3 years, all the key basic skills, I got it. 3 years with this, he don't got it. We're going to study a picture here for a moment, and I want you to notice he's holding the angles. Now, we can tell because the club head is not down on the ground. We see where his hands are, but the club head is back here. Do you know you're not doing this right now? When we watch you, when your hands are here, your club head's going to be down on the ground. It might even be coming up on the other side. Now, you should be able to notice why he can hold the angles. Why can he keep the club from coming down too early? He's a leg player. What must we become? A leg player, to the best we can do it. Now, this is for your understanding and knowledge, so you know where you're going and why. We have an angle, and we have an angle. These 2 angles are set at the top of our backswing. Now, you're doing that part a little bit. When our hips and thighs go first in the downswing, but not just go first, our hips must also be in the correct posture. Would you buy that one? A posture you've never been in. Don't worry, you're going to get there. So here's what we don't do, please. Let's not finish class today, run out and play 9 holes first thing tomorrow, and run out there and start swinging our hips all over the place, okay? Don't worry, you're going to get there. Here's something my students never do. My students never go to the golf course and try to force it. What I'm going to share with you is how to train it, and then it will come to the golf course by itself, okay? Now, we have an angle, and we have an angle, and these 2 angles are set at the top of the backswing, which you're now doing a little bit. When our hips and thighs go first, but also remain pushed back in this unusual posture, not with our hips coming into the ball, which is what you're doing now, you just don't know that. When our hips remain pushed back in this unusual posture, only now can we hold the angles. Nothing is in the way. If our arms went first, where would this hip be right now? Wouldn't it be over here? And you know where the club would be now? Up there. And you know what would be coming out of the mouth? My old 3 words. Where'd it go? When our hips and thighs go first in the downswing and remain pushed back in this unusual posture, only now can we hold the angles. Now, here's what we're supposed to do with the stick. We are not supposed to do what I used to do, which is try to sling the club face at the ball. What we are supposed to do with the golf club is swing the butt of the club on an imaginary line first this way, and not hit the golf ball till our hands are in by the inside of the left thigh, and our hands will not roll over until when? When will our hands roll over? I'm showing you after we hit it. Do you know for 3 years when I struggled, I was trying to figure out how to release the club and snap my wrists at the ball. I couldn't break 100. Let me ask you something. Where do you suppose a golf ball might go if we could hold the club face square on an imaginary line for as long as possible? Where's the ball going to go? On the line. Scientifically, there is an object to this sport. The object of golf is no longer to hit a ball in a hole. The object of golf is to swing 14 golf clubs in fluid motion. That means we don't think. And thereby hold a club face square down a line for as long as possible. Only a leg player in this posture can pull that off. Now, let's study some pictures, shall we? I want you to notice these 2. I want you to notice that they've hit the ball already. You notice that they've hit the ball already, okay? They've hit the ball. The ball is gone. Has the hands rolled over? No. And what's the club face doing? Square. So where's the ball going to go? Straight. Are they leg players? You see the hips have turned? So now it's going to go straight and long. Now I'm going to point something out to you, because there's a lot of awfully bad golf instruction on this planet, okay? And I had a lot of lessons, okay, that showed me to do the opposite of what I'm just about to show you in these pictures from the great players, okay? I want you to notice the upper body from the waist up is behind the ball. See it? You know, I got lessons told me not to do that. That was wrong. I was told to shift my weight over to the left side before I, no. I've studied every great player, none of them did. They were all like this, hitting the ball. Now this is what the angle looks like before we hit the ball. You see this angle in the right wrist is cocked back? That's the angle that holds the club face straight. Okay? That angle is the angle that holds the club face straight. Now, how many golf gimmicks and gadgets have ever been invented to get us to improve? How many? Lots. Why did they make golf gadgets for golfers? What's the reason they make golf gadgets for? We buy them. If we won't buy them, they'll stop making them. Do you know why golfers love golf gadgets? Because the message on every golf gadget is this: hey, that thing is going to help me improve my game, and I want to improve my game. So that's the lure to the fish. Now here comes the hook. The hook is, and I don't have to do anything. Oh, really? I don't have to do anything. The only requirement is money. I have that. You might remember years ago, he was the best golfer in the world. I don't blame him. Remember Greg Norman in the mid-90s? He was the best in the world. Then he got on TV with a gadget called The Secret. Anybody remember that thing? It was the hard plastic with the Velcro, and it cocked your wrist back. Well, I happen to have one right here, 3 easy payments. And because he showed everybody on his TV show that everybody, you got to have that angle. When you hit it, you don't break your wrist. So the idea was just slap this thing on your wrist and you'll be fine. But when we go play golf and take the gadget off, because you know what this thing never did? It didn't make anybody a leg player and put them in the posture. We take the gadget off, arm first, crash, bang, the ankle broke. And 2 years of selling this thing on TV. Does anybody know what Greg Norman was stuck with after 2 years? A bundle of money. Does anybody know what he did with all that money? He kept it. I didn't find it unusual he kept it. What was unusual was all the golfers that had this crazy thing. Nobody was angry. No, there was no class action attorneys, none of this Morgan & Morgan looking out for the people. They said, we don't mind that it didn't work, just make us something else. And we don't care what it is as long as we are not required to do anything. I'm not surprised he kept the money. You know the lady I gave the $200 for the golf lessons? Guess what? She kept the money. Now, do you know you're a few bucks coming to class today? Guess what? I'm keeping it. Well, I asked if you'd help me a little bit, not a lot, a little. I know it cost you a couple bucks to come today. Thanks so much for coming, by the way. Any idea what it cost me to do this class today? Any idea? You know the ad in the newspaper, this class runs me just a little less than $1,000 to do this. So it helps me when I'm really packed. That's okay. I just won't eat this week. Don't let that bother you. No. I'm going to put this behind us just in case anybody has any clever ideas. How many of us have ever heard of a fellow named Callaway? He was my hero. I never met him, but I read about him. Eli Callaway, Callaway Golf. And I thought, what a marvelous human being. I want to try to be like him. I don't care about their golf equipment. They make nice golf equipment, but I make nice instruction. The golf equipment is great, but it's useless until we learn to use it, right? But it was Mr. Callaway himself. Does anybody know how old he was when he started the Callaway Golf Company? He was in his 70s. He had been in the wine business squishing grapes in Temecula, California. And he looked across America. He was getting ready to retire, and he looked across and he asked, hey, why are they building so many new golf courses? Isn't there enough of them? Oh, Mr. Callaway, 20 million people play golf. He said, wow, 20 million people play golf. That's a lot. They said, no, that's nothing. It's going up to 50. He said, 50 million people are going to play golf. So that means right now there's 30 million people with no golf clubs. And then he asked, how many clubs can they shove in a bag? He did the math. He said, I got to know something about the male golfer and the male ego, right, fellas? Which golf club do the men struggle with the most, and they go buy a new one every 3 years, and it's not the putter. It's the big kahuna. And Mr. Callaway responded, oh, really? Put the grapes away. Here comes a Big Bertha, and he sells a zillion of them, made a fortune. And then a couple years later, the Warbird, then the Big Bertha, Great Big Bertha, Biggest Big Bertha, then the Great Big Bertha, then the Titanium and everything. And right after 9/11, remember 9/11? All the golf club companies, they all hit the skids for about 6 months following 9/11, because thankfully we were not too concerned with golf after 9/11 for a while. We got our priorities. And everybody at Callaway, they're all panicked. Oh, we're going to lose our jobs. No one's buying our clubs. What will we do? Mr. Callaway said, look, don't panic. You're not going to lose your job. I got an idea. What are we going to do? He said, what are we going to do? What do we always do? We make another driver. Mr. Callaway, they're not buying the ones we make now. He said, I know they're not buying those. Don't you understand how this game's played? Those are going on a clearance rack. We're going to make a driver now. It'll be a big hit. First, we got to change the name of the thing. We're going to call it the Callaway ERC. Remember that one? It was 3 letters, Echo, Romeo, Charlie. People thought it was scientific. It was his initials, Eli Reeves Callaway. And Mr. Callaway said, we're going to make the Callaway ERC. And the Callaway ERC will be illegal. That'll put us back on the map. And everybody said, an illegal driver? Mr. Callaway, you need to retire now. Who would ever, golf's a game of integrity. Who would ever purchase an illegal driver? He said, there's 50 million golfers that can't hit the 6 legal ones I sold them. They might try one. And then he asked, if we make a driver that is illegal, and it doesn't cost us a nickel more for the heads and the shafts, the grip, the ferrule, and put it in the box, and I think we're going to get Arnold Palmer. He's going to get on TV every week during the tournament and tell everybody how great it is. Is it possible that we can now double the price? Do you know they got about $600 a piece for those things and couldn't keep it in stock? Do you know why? It's illegal. Here's what pushed him to the top of the mountain, but he knew what to do with it. He knew there were millions of golfers running around with an idea. Okay, I know there's a problem. I can read my scorecard. It isn't me. See, when we hit a good shot or a bad shot, on any shot, on every shot, do you know that our own mind has to come up with, why did the ball just do this? Sorry to pick on you, fellas, because what I'm about to show you, I have never seen a woman do this one in my life. Only men do this. The male golfer has just hit about 6 bad shots in a row. And when a male golfer hits 6 bad shots in a row, we start to witness an unusual behavior begin to occur. We start to see them do this. You know, I don't think these things are really working right. Is it crooked? Free-falling a golf club is tricky. Every human being has an intellect. Everybody knows right here the club has to go fast. Is that right? If the club has to go fast, how is free-falling going to make the club go faster than if we, right? I'm going to let this golf club free fall twice. The first one, we're going to swing the lower body very slowly, just a half swing, nothing to get excited about. And then on the second one, we're going to turn the left hip faster, and we're going to see what that does to the stick. So let's do the first one with the lower body moving slowly. Just a little half swing, nothing to get excited about. Now we're going to turn the left hip quicker, and let's see what that does to the stick. Well, the club went faster, didn't it? Which muscles made it go? If we want massive relaxation up top, do we? Then what do we need here now? Massive what? Stress, tension, and torque. Millions of golfers are doing this whole thing backwards. When we play golf, where's the tension? The upper back, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, even the muscles in the face. I'm going to murder that thing. And guess what our hips and thighs are doing? Take a guess. Massive relaxation, and then every once in a while the tragedy strikes. Once in a while with a mess, what do? Hit it good. Nothing could be worse. We're happy. When we hit a good shot with a bad swing, the ball is in flight, the eyes catch up to the ball, and we are instantly being affirmed. You with me? The flight of the ball tricks us into doing it again. You know what tricks us also? Our friends. What do our friends do to us when we hit a good shot? They applaud. It was a bad swing, and then they start telling us things like, just keep doing whatever you did, that should work all the time. And then 30 years go by, doesn't it? Now, all sports skills, the legs are everything. We're going to do the last exercise here in just a moment. Can we go with that for today? The legs are everything in all sports? Sure. Before we do this last exercise, we're going to get your power muscles in alignment. This is immediately going to help you hit the ball further. Before we do this last exercise, who here today has been playing golf for a while, and we've been trying our best, and right now we're not breaking 90, okay? All right, so we'll just take a pretend golfer named Jim. Jim's been at this game for, say, 30 years, and he's been an arm swinger his whole life, and he doesn't break 90, okay? And then we go, hey, Jim, 30 years ago, instead of golf, let's pretend you decided you want to learn to speak Spanish. Oh, you love Spanish. It's now 30 years later, but Jim doesn't know 2 words of Spanish. What should Jim do? And don't say quit. Jim has to change his study habits, change what he learns, how he learns, and never take another tip from the Frenchman you play golf with. Did anybody, when we were in high school, play any sports? Baseball, football, anything? Let's pretend we have a fella in class named Mike. Mike played football in high school. Where would we find Mike every day after school at 4 o'clock? Not once a week. Where was he every single day after school? He went to practice every day after school. Why would Mike go to football practice every day after school? Because the coach said so. What would happen if all of us, well, we're not on the football team anymore. Guess where we're at now? Now we're on the golf team. What do we have to do every day? Show up for dress rehearsal. It's our own home, but I think we got to show up, don't we? Now, what would happen if all of us, like kids at school, they all keep progressing. What would happen if all of us begin to improve a little every single week? What does that mean in time? Nice grade on the quiz, huh? I get these things all the time. A lady in West Palm Beach, Florida, she's not 20 years old. Nobody in West Palm Beach is 20 years old, you know. She'd been playing golf for many, many years. She was an arm swinger her whole life. She had a couple of rounds where she broke the score of 90 twice. To her, it was a fluke. It was. She was an arm swinger. She's not an arm swinger anymore. She's trained herself. And she gets to about right there with her hips when she's hitting it. And she sent me pictures of her last 2 scorecards. She just wanted to show me how she was doing. with back-to-back rounds of 77. Now, she placed from the forward tees, but so what? She still had to hit the shots, didn't she? All sports skills, the legs are everything. Have you ever watched a ball game on TV and you notice some ball players that appear to be a little bow-legged? Sure. And then you might see some that are a little knock-kneed. And this next group are the best. It was back in Boston, Fenway Park. New York Yankees are in town. A rookie shortstop, you remember Derek Jeter? And he came running out on a baseball diamond, and his 2 feet are pigeon-toed. His feet are going in instead of out. Have you ever noticed pigeon-toed ball players? Well, aren't they the best? Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays. Let's switch sports. Let's go to football quarterbacks. Johnny Unitas, John Elway, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. Aren't they all pigeon-toed a little bit? Sure. Basketball, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Andre Agassi, Chrissy Everett, pigeon-toed. Have you ever seen a great ball player come running out on the field like this? Well, no. We're going to get your power muscles now in alignment. This is going to help you hit the golf ball further, okay? Now, does anybody here know what a kinesiologist does? Does anybody know what a kinesiologist does? Isn't that all about joints, ligaments, muscles in motion? Hey, we're here for motion. The right-handed golfer, if you're a right-handed golfer, the back foot is the right foot, okay? And by the way, most golfers have their feet a little too narrow. Our shoulders are going to fit between the feet like all the good players, okay? The right-handed golfer, the back foot is the right foot. If the right foot starts to toe out away from us like a duck, you see that? In the backswing, the right hip will follow the foot. Uh-oh. It'll turn back easy. Now it won't go the other way. Is everybody clear on this? Here's what I'd like you to try with me. We're just going to do a little backswing. You don't even need your golf club. I'd like you to take your right foot. We're going to get set up. And I'd like you to take your right foot and toe it out. Now, let's make a little backswing together, shall we? Make a backswing. Now, just notice the sensation in your right leg. Very little torque and pressure, right? Okay? Now, let's take that back foot now. Let's start again. And we're going to take that right foot, and we're going to toe in just a little bit, maybe about an inch or so. And we're going to leave the left foot straight ahead. Now, what I want you to do now is going to make a little backswing. And notice what you now start to feel in the power muscles. Now we're winding up, okay? Now, let's have a fast review. There were 4 keys in class today that will help us immediately if we do them. The first one you laughed about. Are we going to watch our friends play golf anymore? What about the ball? Can you watch the ball? Let me paint you a picture. 2 gentlemen are playing golf right now, and the first fella hit it in the lake. And just before he hits it in the lake, what did he ask his friend to do? Be a witness. The friend responds, I'll watch your ball so you can keep your head down. Go ahead, I'm going to watch it. You went in. I watched it splash with my 2 eyes. Guess where player number 2 was likely going? In behind him. And you know what comes out of the mouth of the second guy? I had a feeling this was going to happen. We have negativity of our own. We don't need everybody else's. They don't need ours. We did an exercise today to remove the tension from the upper body, right? Let's get going on that one right now. All I do here is make suggestions. Now, this is something I know about golfers. I make suggestions. We're going to do whatever we want anyway, right? Especially the men, right, fellas? Hey, fellas, if you threw a couple bucks at me to be your skydiving teacher, I'd give you a suggestion. Would you take it? Open the parachute. We'd do that, but this is golf, and many of us are men. Steve suggested for now, I'm not to go to the driving range. Remember that? We'll take care of that later. No driving range. I want to go hit balls. But if I go play golf, I'm going to toe my back foot in just a little bit, right? I'll bet you within the next 48 hours, every man in this class will have been at a driving range standing over a golf ball like this. Because if a little bit towed in is good, let me see what this does. Now let's cover with you what we're going to be doing in the next class, the 3-hour session, okay? Please arrive about 15 minutes early. So if you're coming to a 10 a.m. class, 9:45 arrival. That way everybody can be checked in, and at the top of the hour we can be ready to go, and we'll start right on time, okay? The first thing we'll be doing is the most important of all fundamentals in golf, and it sits right here. Now we know from earlier today the brain swings the club, right? And we will swing at a golf ball, analytical conscious thinking, or the right brain subconscious with a quiet mind. Now which one is fluid motion? Sure. The right brain subconscious, quiet mind. We don't want to be busy thinking about stuff, okay? This is also the confidence creator, so that we know we're going to hit it good before we hit it. We will slow our pulse, and we will now start to play a round of golf in a sense of calm and ease. Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of anxious and uptight, okay? We're going to slow the pulse. Then we're going to incorporate these things into our pre-shot routine in the forward press. Now, at that point in time in class, we'll take a short break. We've been at it for a little bit. Give you a quick break, 5 minutes. You need to use the restroom, what have you. And then we'll reconvene. And then we're going to take care of the most critical area in our body for positioning. Now, millions of golfers will play golf their entire lifetime and never give this any attention. It's the positioning of the hips. Here's the 2 big breakdowns. You won't even know you're doing it, but you'll realize it. Is in the backswing, the first one is when the right hip for the right-handed golfer makes a lateral shift this way and slides. Uh-oh, when it's supposed to be, get it? Now this next one is even worse, is when while we're swinging or at address at any point in time before we hit that golf ball, our hips do not stay pushed back, and while we swing, our hips start coming into the ball, standing us up, breaking down the spine, the shoulders, and the head. That breakdown occasionally happens to the best players in the world. I bet you've seen or heard it on TV, and they'll say, oh, he came out of the shot. Have you ever heard that term used? They came out of the shot. Now you know what it is. Now let's take a moment, and we're going to see this as to what we're going to be doing, and we're going to study the position of the hips right now. This is what we're going to be doing in class. So notice at the position of address, the hips are sitting back, and the end of the seat is about 6 inches behind the back of the heels. Okay? Now let's notice at the top of the backswing, the seat is still about 6 inches behind the back of the heels. And then in the downswing, we see the end of the seat is still about 6 inches behind the back of the heels. Now, I'm going to be setting you in positions, especially with your hips, that you've never dreamed of, okay? This is going to feel unusual when we do it for the very first time. Now, especially when I set you at the top of your backswing, like this picture here right now, when you're at the top of the backswing, about like so, we're going to take your shoulders, and we're going to get your shoulders to be set out here where they're supposed to, and then we're going to drop your hips back so that when we're at the top of the backswing, we're just like so instead of upright, okay? When I set you like that at the top of the backswing, the first thing you're going to know is this: I've never done this. Then the next thing you're going to know is, I can do it. Because we can do it. Now, this position of the hips set back, initially, when we first do it, it's always a little bit easier for the ladies. The women have longer hamstrings in the back of the legs, and women are always more flexible in the hips than the men. It's common Sometimes for the men, where when you're learning some of these things in the lower body, my experience was sometimes I got a little stiff and sore. So that's why we have Walgreens, right? Okay, so you know the deal. Now, when we complete that part of class, we've been at it now a good while. I'm going to always give you a quick break. We're going to take about a 5 or 10 minute break at that point. So if you need to have a snack, use the restroom, what have you. Then we're going to reconvene for the short game. Our putting stroke. Should our putting stroke be done with the arms and hands, or should a putting stroke be done with the upper back and shoulders? Which one? Yeah, we're going to share with you how to memorize this putting stroke. Now, at that point, I'm going to show you quickly how to practice putting at home. And from now on, I want you to do all your practice putting golf balls at a small coin, perhaps a dime, okay? So if you're at the putting green or at home, you put the dime on the ground and that's the hole. If you were to practice putting on a piece of carpet for say 4 or 5 minutes a day at a dime, you know, 5, 8, 10 foot putts, and they don't have to be long, and you're always putting at a dime, and then we go to the golf course, what's the hole going to look like? It's going to look really big. It's going to seem easier, okay? It's going to reduce stress and tension. Wow, this is easy. Now, then we're going to do the routine. There are certain steps that are going to do this for you for the short game. It's going to give us a target and a line, and then the trickiest part of the short game is this. How hard should I hit this? Do you know why that's the toughest part of the short game? Because no two 20-foot putts are the same speed. Every 20-foot putt is a different speed. Just because it's 20 feet long doesn't mean they're the same, because you can have an uphill, downhill, fast greens today and then slow greens next time, right? Okay, so it's tricky. So we're going to show you how to gauge the speed, all right? And then we're going to apply that also. We're going to take that and we're going to apply one more thing to what you do with chipping. Okay, so if you have trouble with chipping around the green, we're going to take care of that. Now, so those are the key elements. If you like today's class, you're going to love the next one. So what I'd like to do at this time, Steve would like to turn the class back over to Steve.